Welcome to everybody. And we said we were going to start at 6:45. We did it early because we're going to daven mincha. And in order to daven mincha, we have to do that prior to the setting of the sun. And we want to be aware that today, this day, April 14th, is Yom HaZikaron. And tomorrow, April 15th, will be Yom HaAtzma'ut. And we know that on the Hebrew calendar, every day starts at sundown. And so we're going to have the experience, like our friends and relatives in Israel do, by going from Yom HaZikaron to Yom HaAtzma'ut, Memorial Day to Independence Day. I had the opportunity of being in Israel on Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzma'ut. And it was from that experience that happened nearly 30 years ago, more than that. It was almost 40 years ago. Yom HaZikaron was a day of tears, was a day of memory, was a day of walking on the Burma Road and talking about the siege of Jerusalem, was going to Har Herzl and seeing the military cemetery with graves 15 years old, 16 years old, 14 years old, 18. These were the people who died establishing the state of Israel. And so Yom HaZikaron, a day on the calendar to remember. In America, our Memorial Day morphed into a day of shopping and a day of going to the beach and barbecues and parades and all kinds of things. And I know that when I was growing up, we never talked about those who gave their lives so that our country could be a free country. Israel, Yom HaZikaron is a very, very important day. Just like on Yom HaAtzma'ut, there is a siren that goes off and everybody stands still. Everybody in Israel is like an extended family, and everyone knows someone who lost their lives fighting for our freedom. This past Passover, in our synagogue, we saw a video of Israeli soldiers, members of the IDF, singing about the 4 questions, and they had a 5th question. Why on all other nights do we take our freedom for granted? But on this night, we appreciate it. Now, these are soldiers saying that we appreciate our freedom. And they are saying that we appreciate the ability to fight for our freedom. Even though we are soldiers, we appreciate our freedom and we are glad to be serving. A number of years ago, we had a program where we had some videos of some high school students who were on their way to be inducted into the IDF. And they were talking about their American counterparts and how sure they would like to be on the beach or at a bar listening to music or doing all kinds of fun things. But these 18-year-olds, they all said, our place is to be in the IDF. Our place is to defend our country and our right to be. Why do we care as Americans? Why do we celebrate Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzma'ut? Why is Israel so much a part of who we are? I've been trying to preach for years that if Israel wasn't on the map, we as American Jews and we as Jews all over the diaspora would not have the peace and security that we have. We all know of a time when there wasn't an Israel on the map, and when Israel was not on the map, 1/3 of our entire people were wiped out. There was no place to go. Today, Israel stands strong and stands tall. And we are a free people once again on our own land. And we are in charge of our own destiny. We have our own military. And we are grateful for all that is part of our lives. And so at this time, we're going to take a few moments to watch 2 videos that will get us into the frame of mind of Yom HaZikaron. The first video was made this year from the IDF, and it really speaks for itself. We go from 4 friends losing 1 and 3 friends continuing their lives, never forgetting their friend who they lost, and at every step of their way, he remained as part. Whoops.
From the.
Sorry. So we go from these unnamed soldiers to a story of Roe Klein, a story that we shared a number of years ago, but it really speaks about the heroism, the courage, and what it is all about to be in the IDF.
ממש כשהשחר מתחיל להפציע בחושך האחרון, רואים מדווח לי בקשר שהוא נתקל מאחור.
מרחביה למעשה יוצא יחד עם אחות שלו באיגוף לכיוון נקודת המחבלים. שם הוא נתקל בחומה ולמעשה הוא נפגע. קליין לוקח כוח נוסף ויוצא לכיוון מרחביה כדי לחלץ אותו. כשקליין נכנס פנימה הוא מזהה את מרחביה פצוע. 2 או 3 לוחמים שנמצאים לידו פותחים אלונקה ושמים את עמיחי על האלונקה. תוך כדי שהם מרימים את האלונקה נזרק רימון לכיוון הכוח. רועי מזהה את הרימון הזה, קופץ עליו.
פתאום אני זוכר שמע ישראל כזה, בכוונה. כאילו, שמע ישראל, השם, אלוקינו, השם, אחד. ככה ממש בכוונה, כאילו... ממש כמו בסיפורים.
כשהיה חוזר לצבא, הרבה פעמים רציתי להגיד לו, תשמור על עצמך. אבל הרגשתי שזה לא שייך. התביישתי להגיד לו. כי ידעתי שהוא יגיד לי, מה לשמור על עצמי? אני הולך לצבא, הרבה פעמים הייתי אומרת לו, תשמור על אחרים, תשמורו אחד על השני. דברים כאלה. גם בפעם האחרונה שהוא יצא. זה מכתב של שבוע לפני החתונה. לשרה אשתי לעתיד ביתי. יהי רצון מלפניך השם אלוקינו ואלוקי אבותינו. שנזכה ונקים בניין עדי עד בית ישראלי מתוך אידיאל ישראלי, מתוך מחשבות ורגשות ישראלים, ישרים עם אל. מתוך אהבה, אחווה, שלום ורעות, מתוך אחדות. מתוך ידיעה ומתוך הרגשה ומתוך אמונה שלמה של זאת הפעם עצם מעצמיי ובשר מבשרי. מתוך ציפייה לישועה ולגאולתן של ישראל. מתוך כך שהכוח הישראלי הוא אבן היסוד והבניין של האומה כולה. מתוך אחריות בדור זה של עקבי משיח לכל צעד, לכל התקדמות, לכל התגברות בבניין הבית. מתוך טהרה וצניעות, מתוך ענווה והתבטלות כלפי האידיאל הישראלי. אוהב ללא גבול, רועי.
I hope that these 2 videos give us a moment to pause.
What can we learn about...
Oh, that's... Hold on. Okay. A moment to pause, a moment to think. For the last number of years, for the observance of Yom HaShoah, we've been trying to encourage people not to think of the numbers, not to think of the 6 million, but to think of individuals, of parents, of children, of brothers, of husbands, of wives, of individuals who lost their lives. And so on this Yom HaZikaron, we try to think about those courageous individuals who, with all of their heart and all of their soul, were part of the Israel Defense Forces and fought on our behalf, making sure that we can continue to be a free people, living freely in our own land. Liot am chofshi be'artseinu. And so, on this Yom HaZikaron, we remember and we try to make sure that we never take for granted all that we have in this world. And so, I don't see everybody. Is the Cantor on? He was doing something.
I'm here.
You are here. Okay. Why don't I see? Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
Okay. Didn't see your picture. Okay. We're going to, right before Mincha, I'm going to ask everybody to rise as the Chazan will recite a very important El Malei Rachamim, God who's the source of all compassion. And we ask that that compassion be shared with all of the soldiers who have lost their lives fighting on behalf of the state of Israel. Hold on 1 minute.
Malei Rachamim, Shochain Bamramim, Hamitzay Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Ashchina. במעלות כנשירת ירים, כזוהר רקיע ומזהירים, לנשמת כל גיבורי עמנו, שמסרו נפשם על גאולת ארצנו. נענה ברחמים, הסתירם בסיידך רבך לעולמים. וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתם. אדוני הוא נחלתם, וינוחו בשלום על משכבם, ונאמר אמן, amen.
Fully compassionate God on high, to the souls of those among our people who bravely gave their lives for the redemption of our land, grant clear and certain rest with you in the lofty heights of the sacred and pure, whose brightness shines like the very glow of heaven. Source of mercy, forever enfold them in the embrace of your wings. Secure their souls in eternity. Adonai, they are yours. they will rest in peace. We say together,
Amen.
Amen.
You may be seated. We're going to turn to the Mincha service, the afternoon service that begins with the words Ashrei. And so with the feelings, the emotions, and the thoughts that we all have about the fallen soldiers and about the land of Israel, we recognize that it is our privilege and our opportunity to thank God for the blessings of life and to invoke God's name for those requests that are deep within our hearts and within our souls. We begin the afternoon service with Ashrei, and the sun is just about setting, which means that we are going from Yom HaZikaron, Yom HaAtzma'ut. As I mentioned earlier, having the opportunity to be in Israel for these days is something that should be on everybody's bucket list. To experience the emotion of Yom HaZikaron and the jubilation of Yom HaAtzma'ut. The singing, the dancing, the bopping of people on the head with a plastic hammer. It is an amazing experience. And so we are going to go from the heavy hearts with which we started our program tonight to the singing and rejoicing of Yom HaAtzma'ut. There we have twice already showed the video that we're going to show now that was created last year for Yom HaAtzma'ut. Last year in Yom HaAtzma'ut was right after the pandemic began and everybody was quarantined at home, and it was a very scary and trying time. But as this video shows, the song is Machar. And Machar means tomorrow. And Machar, the song says, if not tomorrow, then it will be the next day. And it's a song of great hope and great jubilation. And as we hear this song and we see people celebrating Yom HaAtzma'ut in the only way that they could, at home, alone. But you'll see what this is all about. Chazan, are we ready for this video?
Yes, we are. 1 second. Okay.
I want to thank Cantor Shron for being our source of all of these videos. And I've seen that now at least 5 or 6 times. I could watch it 100 times. The joy of celebrating independence, of celebrating being liot am chofshi be'artzeinu, to be a free people in our own land, to be able to celebrate in the midst of a very difficult time, but to do so with such joy. That is the heart and soul and the spirit of the Jewish people. And so that is so much of what Israel is. Whenever we talk about Israel, there's all kinds of things and all kinds of problems and all kinds of issues. But the bottom line is that Israel is all about life. It's all about making the very best and the very most, and of standing tall and being proud. And so on this day of Yom HaAtzma'ut, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to hear the Declaration of Independence. But we're going to hear it in an amazing way. There are members of our congregation who had the opportunity to be in Independence Hall in Tel Aviv. And when we got on the bus, I read the Declaration of Independence, and that was also an amazing way to feel what the Declaration of Independence was all about. We have to thank God for the Maccabees, the beautiful a cappella music coming out of Yeshiva University, these young men who have embraced the beauty of Judaism. And in this song called Megillat HaAtzma'ut, they put the words of the Declaration of Independence into beautiful music and beautiful scenes of Israel. And we have a sense of what Israel's all about and what the independence was all about on that day in 1948 in the Hall of Independence. Cantor?
אנו מכריזים בזאת על הקמת מדינה יהודית בארץ ישראל. היא מדינת ישראל.
בארץ ישראל קם העם היהודי. החלוצים מעפילים ומגינים הפריחו נשמות. החיו שפתם העברית, בנו כפרים וערים והקימו יישוב גדל. עליו כל קושי, מניעה וסכנה, הם לא פסקו לתבוע את זכותם בחיי כבוד
Koach to the Maccabees for helping us to hear those magnificent words of the Declaration of Independence. It's only been 73 years. That's a drop in the bucket as far as the history of the Jewish people is. How fortunate are we to be living in this time and to be so proud of who we are as a people and who Israel is as a modern state in our world. Every year, Hazan, are we ready with Bibi? Yes? Every year, the Prime Minister of Israel shares a message, and this year is no different. I'd like to hear from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, a video that was sent today to as many people as will hear. We're very grateful that our Chazan took this video that was in Hebrew, and it is in Hebrew. He translated the words, and not only translated them, but put them on the screen for all of us to see. And this is a representation of the fact that, yes, he sent one in English, but it wasn't the same. Not the same kind of feeling and message that he sent to the people in Israel. So we are very fortunate that we can hear him speaking in Hebrew. We can understand the Hebrew because of our Chazan and his subtitles. So let's hear from the current Prime Minister of the State of Israel.
And I just finished the subtitles about 5 minutes ago, so please forgive any errors, but I did my best. Here we go.
מזל טוב מדינת ישראל שלנו, אנחנו כל כך אוהבים אותה. אזרחי ישראל, עברנו שנה קשה של מגפה עולמית, ועברנו אותה יחד. פעם נוספת גילינו עד כמה חזק העם שלנו ברגעי מבחן. גילינו איך ברגע האמת כולנו מתגייסים כאיש אחד כדי לשמור על החיים וכדי לחזור לחיים, וחזרנו בענק. מיליוני החיסונים שהבאנו לישראל אפשרו לנו לצאת מהקורונה ראשונים בעולם. אפשרו לנו לצאת מהבידוד ולצאת מהבדידות. יצאנו ממגפה לגאולה, מאפלה לאור גדול, יצאנו מהסגרים למסעדות. עשינו זאת בזכות הצוותים הרפואיים הנפלאים שלנו, בזכות המתנדבים הנפלאים שלנו, בזכות אחמד ממרכז החיסונים, בזכות ולריה ממחלקת הקורונה בבית החולים. עשינו זאת בזכות הנכדות והנכדים שהתגעגעו לסבא וסבתא, ובזכות סבא וסבתא שהעבירו את כל האהבה שלהם לנכדים בזום, גם במדפסות. עשינו זאת בזכותכם, כל אזרחי ישראל, בלי יוצא מן הכלל. אין כמוכם. השנה גילינו שוב את כוחו של העם הנפלא שלנו, את כוח האמונה שלנו, את כוח החיים שבנו. השנה מימשנו שוב את דבריו של הרצל. אם תרצו, אין זו אגדה. רצינו ויחד הפכנו את ישראל לאגדה בין העמים. שאמרנו על הכלכלה שלנו, ועכשיו נזניק אותה מעלה. אנחנו שומרים על ביטחוננו מול סביבה ביטחונית שממשיכה לאתגר אותה. ואנחנו עושים זאת בזכות הלוחמים והלוחמות שלנו, בזכות צה"ל, המוסד והשב"כ, ובזכות שאר כוחות הביטחון וההצלה. אנחנו מצדיעים להם באהבה ובהערכה. הבאנו הסכמי שלום היסטוריים עם מדינות ערב שמשנים כליל את פני המזרח התיכון. לאמונה שלנו יש דרך, לתקווה שלנו יש שם. מדינת ישראל, החלום שהתגשם. אז בואו נרים יחד לחיי העם הזה, שכמה טוב שהוא כזה. דתיים וחילוניים, יהודים וערבים, מוסלמים ונוצרים, דרוזים, צ'רקסים ובדואים. יחד חלמנו, יחד הגשמנו, ויחד ניצחנו. חג עצמאות שמח, מדינת ישראל.
כשאנחנו שומעים את זה, אנחנו מרגישים כאילו אנחנו ישראלים. I said that when we listen to that, it feels like as if we are Israelis tonight, and how beautiful it is, and how important it is that both in the Declaration of Independence and in the Prime Minister's words, there was a embrace of the Christians and the Druze and the Bedouins and the Arabs and the Jews, and that this is what Israel's all about. And it's a land of freedom, a land of democracy, a land of hope, and a land that gave our people that was decimated in the Holocaust an opportunity to be reborn. All of those Jews living in Ador HaMizrach, the Arab countries that were expelled from their homes, had a home. Those Jews coming from the Soviet Union, they had a home. Jews coming from Ethiopia, they have a home. Wherever we are Am Yisrael, the people of Israel, the Am Yisrael Chai, the people of Israel lives. So as a Jewish people, we are a people of prayer, and we're going to join together in the Ma'ariv service. But before we do, there is an addition to the Ma'ariv service on Hanukkah and on Purim, and now in our day, those who set the liturgical calendar add Yom HaAtzma'ut to the prayer book. And it is the Al Hanisim prayer. And Al Hanisim means for the miracles that God did for us in those days and in these days. Of course, we know about Hanukkah and the miracles. We know about Purim and the miracles. And now I'm going to call upon our Chazan to share with us a little bit about the prayer Al Hanisim. I'm going to put it on the screen so that we can all see. Chazan?
It's really amazing to see how the modern contemporary rabbis have embraced this holiday of Yom HaAtzma'ut. And just like we spend a lot of time on our various holidays adding special prayers, anyone who joined us for services over Pesach is very much aware of all the extra prayers that we add to our service anytime we have a special holiday. Well, it's nice that they've added special prayers for this day of Yom HaAtzma'ut as well. I mean, we're talking, all the other holidays have been around for thousands of years. This holiday has only been around for 73. And how beautiful it is that, just a relatively few years ago, they said, you know what, let's compose special prayers for this holiday as well. So I was talking to my father earlier today. He's in Israel. And he said that when you go to Daven Mariv in Israel, the service is even longer than what we're going to have here. We're basically just going to add this Al Hanisim prayer. In Israel, they included parts of Lecha Dodi. They included parts of Kabbalat Shabbat. I don't exactly know why, but I think just to show how special this time is and how special this day is in the life cycle, in the year of Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel. Just like on Chanukah and Purim, we have a prayer Al Hanisim for the miracles, celebrating the miracle of Chanukah, where a small army defeated a very large nation, just like we celebrate the miracle on Purim, where a small nation of Jews defeated Haman and his plan with Achashverosh, one of the most powerful kings in the land, ruler of 127 nations. These are tremendous miracles in Jewish history. The miracle of the birth of the state of Israel is just as miraculous, and we show that with this special prayer, Al Hanisim. So how do we read it? We thank you for the miraculous deliverance, for the heroism, and for the triumphs of our ancestors from ancient days until our time. That's the Al Hanisim that we say for all the prayers, all the Chanukah, Purim, and Yom HaAtzma'ut. And let's read this one special for Yom HaAtzma'ut. In the days when your children were returning to their borders, at the time when our people took root in its land, as in days of old, the gates to the land of our ancestors were closed before those who were fleeing the sword. When enemies from within the land, together with 7 neighboring nations, sought to annihilate your people, you, in your great mercy, stood by them in times of trouble. You defended them and vindicated them. You gave them courage to meet their foes, to open the gates to those seeking refuge, and to free the land of its armed invaders. You delivered the many into the hands of the few, the guilty into the hands of the innocent. You have revealed your glory and your holiness to all the world, achieving great victories and miraculous deliverance for your people Israel to this day. We talked earlier in our class on Zionism that we do every Monday and Wednesday, that the state of Israel is the fulfillment of many biblical prophecies, things that were actually mentioned in the Tanakh, which would happen someday, have actually taken place in front of our very eyes over the past 73 years. And this prayer that we're going to have the privilege to say tonight, that we say only one time every year, is a really great way to thank God for the miracle of the state of Israel. Anyone who's been to Israel, anyone who's learned about Israel, knows very well what kind of miracle it is. And we're going to celebrate it over the next 24 hours and truly thank God for the existence of our homeland. One final thing, when we do Mariv in a moment, I'll be chanting the Mariv service with the same nusach, the same melody that we use for Mariv on Passover, Shavuot, and Sukkot, just showing that this holiday of Yom HaAtzma'ut is equally important to the biblical festivals that we celebrate all year long. Chag Sameach.
Thank you, Chazan. And now we're going to go to the beginning of the Mariv service. We invite everyone to please rise as we recognize the beauty of the onset of evening, God's presence in our midst, and for all of the miracles that are with us each and every day. We are very excited to have our own Cantor, who is every Sunday the voice of Israel, and has his own radio show sharing the beauty of contemporary Israeli music, to share with us a program in honor of Yom HaAtzma'ut that is based on contemporary Israeli music that you hear on the airwaves while you're riding on the buses, sitting in a taxi, listening to your iPad. And the songs of Israel embody the culture and the heart and the soul of our people. And we thought that it would be a really wonderful way to begin our celebration of Yom HaAtzma'ut, to be touched by some of the music. And with no further ado, I'd like to call upon Cantor Joshua Shron.
Thank you very much. So as Rabbi Yaffe mentioned, I've been involved in the Israeli music scene for many, many years. For some reason, well, I'll tell you my story very quickly. I started, when I was a student at Rutgers University, I was very, very much into radio. I was a real radio geek. I thought it was the coolest thing to work in a radio station, and I followed the radio industry and all that kind of thing. I wanted to be in radio in the worst way. So I went to the campus radio station, and all they played was garbage. You know, I wasn't interested in any of the music that they had to share with me. So but then I had a friend who was getting ready to graduate, and he said, well, I do this Israeli music show, and I'm moving to Israel, and I need somebody to take it over. And I said, well, I don't know the first thing about Israeli music. How can I do a show about Israeli music? He said, you know what? Come on in and see what it's like, and you'll give it a shot. So I did, and very soon afterwards, I was having such a good time on the radio that I was hooked. I was hooked on the music. I was hooked on the culture. I was hooked on the artists that were singing. I got very much into the whole thing. And what's the best part about it is The next time I went to Israel, I felt so much more connected than ever before, because I would go into a restaurant and they'd play music and I'd say, oh, I know that song. I know that artist. I know who that is. I can sing along with that. And I felt like a macher, because here I was, I'm a radio DJ, playing Israeli music. And I said, I should be somebody in Israel. Well, that never really happened. But I did find that becoming immersed in the music really got me more connected to Israel than ever before. And whenever I speak to groups about Israeli music, I want to tell them that they, by following the Israeli music scene, they will be immersed in Israeli culture and they will feel more connected to Israel. So we'll talk about that in a minute. First of all, if anybody wants to find out more about what I do, we're on every Sunday at 11, and we have weekly podcasts if anyone listens to podcasts. Also, I do a little show on Facebook every weekday at 3:30 for, I don't know, about 20 minutes or so, and share some of the latest Israeli music. We have a nice little audience from around the world who joins in. It's a lot of fun. And this is when I started at the radio station. That's Meirav and me. You can see the control board is in the bottom right corner there. That's like a World War II era radio control board that we had when we first started at the station. And I had a lot more hair back then. Ever since they remade the station just a little bit, and we have some pictures from throughout the years at our new and improved control board, which was even more new and improved with this red one at the bottom about 2 years ago. So we have a whole new studio, and it's a lot of fun. Back when Corona hit, we had to make sure that we wore a mask while we were on the air, and we had Lysol to keep us going. And but then eventually they just closed down the station. And now essentially I do the radio show from right here in this room with my headphones and my microphone and my computer. And that's basically what's happening nowadays. And I'll tell you, I miss the thrill of being at a radio station, but it's nice to be able to do it and to connect with listeners from around the world from right here in this chair. Anyway, my message for tonight, as we go through some of the songs we're going to be hearing, is that a lot of people are turned off by Israeli music because they don't speak Hebrew. And I say that's not a reason not to listen. You don't need to understand every word of the songs. I don't understand every word, but you just need to immerse yourself in Israel. If you, like I said before, if you immerse yourself in Israeli culture, you'll find yourself more connected to Israel and more invested in Israel. And I like to say on the radio that we help build a stronger Israel one song at a time, because we are trying to get English-speaking people from around the world to really connect with the music, with the culture, with the land and its people, whether or not they understand Hebrew. So once you find a song and realize, oh, okay, I like the way this sounds, it doesn't matter if you understand every word. People listen to the opera. Do you understand, if you go to the opera, do you understand every word of what you're hearing in the opera? I don't think so. So Israeli music is just as important because it helps you connect with your homeland. So I want to share with you during our presentation tonight about 10 or so songs that really kept Israel going throughout the pandemic, because what is absolutely amazing about what's happened during this pandemic is that Israeli music has really come to the rescue. The artists, the writers, the producers, whoever it is, decided, we can connect to this nation, to these people through music, and we can make everybody feel united. And we can make everybody feel less lonely. And we can give all the citizens of Israel a big hug just by creating songs that everybody's listening to that really unite the people. And I don't think that happened in America. As far as I know, you wouldn't turn on the radio and hear Lady Gaga singing about how we all need to wear a mask or how we all need to stay united during this difficult time. You didn't hear that from the American singing superstars, but in Israel, they really unified the country in a big, big way. From the very, very first days of the pandemic, they moved concerts from the concert halls to the television. And an artist would come to an empty concert hall. There would be no audience, but they would perform for the nation every single night. And everybody would tune in and see these people singing their hits and have the opportunity to go to a concert almost every night of the week, even though there was no audience there in the auditorium. And it felt weird not to have any applause between songs, but this is what they were doing. The artists and the music community really, really came through. So the first song I want to share with you came out on March 26th, 2020. Again, this is shortly after the quarantine started, shortly after we all went into lockdown, and we were nervous. We were scared. We didn't know what was happening. We didn't know how long this was going to last. We didn't know how we were getting out of it. And we just needed something to make us feel good. This song, it struck me the day it came out because the imagery is striking of a very empty Israel, and the message is kind of beautiful as well. So this is a short song that came out, and there are translations, there are subtitles on the screen, but I also want you to look, sometimes we can get distracted by those subtitles and you miss what's going on above the subtitles. I want you to make sure you also look at the images you see in front of you, because the images of an empty, deserted land of Israel is something very striking and very frightening. So take a look. This is called Ga'aguim Livnei Adam, Longing for People. Beautiful song showing us the lessons that we're supposed to learn from coronavirus, that we have to be kinder to each other. We have to care about each other. We have to stop running away from each other. We have to come together, because who knows when that might end. The song is by Hanan Ben Ari, by the way, who is a very interesting singer, because he is one of the few people in mainstream Israeli music who wears a kippah. He is Shomer Shabbat, but still sings not about Jewish themes in general, songs that are insanely popular around the country. And it's fairly unusual for a religious singer to achieve that kind of popularity in an industry that's fairly secular. We will hear from him again at the end of the presentation today. So the next song I want to share with you, by April, Pesach came along. And as we all know from our own experiences, Pesach got here in 2020, and we said, oh my God, how are we going to do this? How is this going to happen? We're used to getting together with family and friends. We have a big Seder, and now we're not supposed to do that. How are we going to do it? Well, Israeli TV, for those who watch television on the holiday, Israeli TV came to the rescue, and they created something called the Big Israeli Seder. And all night long, they had a Seder on television. So if you were sitting there by yourself, or maybe with a spouse, and you had nobody to have a Seder with, well, you were invited to the Seder of the Israeli TV station, and they had all kinds of wonderful songs and videos and special guest appearances to make this Big Israeli Seder very special. My favorite part of it is that at the end of the Seder, they got together 31 of Israel's top singers, and you will see people from all walks of life in this video, all singing different parts of Echad Mi Yodea, Who Knows One. So I want to show you this. This is just the last verse, which shows all of the different people who were singing together. And of course, they did this over Zoom, to create one of those amazing videos where different people are meshed together from all over the country. So this was really something pretty cool. Here we go.
אחד אלוהינו,
did the whole song that way, and it was a lot of fun. And what's very interesting is that that first singer that you saw in the army uniform, her name is Noah Kirel. She is only 20 years old. She is a very, very popular singer in Israel. Started really turning heads when she was 13. And she just signed back in June a recording contract with Atlantic Records in the United States. It was the largest recording contract ever signed by an Israeli in America. And so we might be hearing the name Noah Kirel, Kirel, on our radios all over this country. Who knows? Maybe one day she'll become a household name in the United States. All right, let us go on. Hold on one second. So shortly after Passover, or maybe it was even during Passover, the Israeli music industry was tasked with with how do we keep Israelis at home. So many, Israelis, they have this mentality, we don't need to listen. We can do whatever we want. We're in this Corona thing. It's not really a big issue. Well, they wanted to really get the message out that we can do this. We can handle this. And the song was called Al Mi'at Chachama, which is an Israeli expression that means, hey, Corona, you think you can outsmart us? We are the nation that beat Pharaoh. We're the nation that came out of the land of Egypt. You really think this little thing like Corona can get us down? Of course not. We're going to follow the rules and we're going to do what needs to be done. And the song was translated with subtitles on YouTube, and you're going to see the subtitled version that's here. But the subtitles are a little misleading because it doesn't really talk about Pharaoh. But I want to let you know that they keep referring to Pharaoh as saying, "Come on, we beat Pharaoh. We can handle something as little as Corona." Does you see anybody you recognize in that video? President Rivlin was there at some point, and it was just a beautiful message of unity and a really upbeat way. Did America do anything like this? I don't think so. And just a really great way to get the word out that look, this is what we need to do in order to save lives and to stay safe. So that was beginning of April, and then we move on to April 16th. And all of a sudden, I have to introduce to you Kelly Clarkson into our Israeli music presentation. This was something unbelievable that Kelly did. Kelly Clarkson, of course, for those who don't know, is a very, very, very famous American singer. She was the very first winner of American Idol back who knows how many years ago. And she also has or had, I'm not sure if she still does, a daily talk show. So she decided to release a new song called I Dare You to Love. And not only did she release it in America, she also released it in several different countries around the world. And not only did she do that, she also joined forces with some of the singers from around the world. And not only did she do that, she sang it in all those different languages, including Arabic and German and Spanish and French and Italian and Hebrew. So she joined forces with this Israeli singer named Maya Buskila. And you'll hear first Maya Buskila singing the first stanza. And the second stanza is literally Kelly Clarkson, a woman who has probably never been to Israel in her life, singing in nearly flawless Hebrew. So take a look and let me know what you think. If anybody is interested in a list of these videos, please let me know. Maybe you can email me if you want, and I can send you a list of all these videos on YouTube. Or maybe I'll just put it out there and send it to the congregation or something. We'll see. But I want to pause for a minute. Does anybody have any questions on anything we've talked about so far? Eva?
I just want to say Kelly Clarkson, I know well, she's a country singer. That's why most people haven't heard of her. I listen to country music a lot, and she had a lot of big hits. I don't know about recently, but she was a very big country and West singer. She's
had a lot of big hits, really, really big hits, and very, very well known around the world. So to hear her sing in Hebrew is really something pretty amazing. If you know Kelly, did you enjoy that song?
Yeah,
she did a nice job. If anybody has any questions, just shout it out because I can't see everybody.
So are these the videos you're showing? These are obviously videos on YouTube, but are these just songs that are currently on the airwaves, or they were?
They were,
March and April?
and yeah, they were on the airwaves. They made a lot of noise in Israel because they became very popular, and you can find them all on YouTube. But yeah, all these were played on the radio and enjoyed great success. So, all right, let's continue. And of course, the Kelly Clarkson song was all about, if you're feeling sad, don't worry, it's going to pass and we'll get back together and show your love and open your heart. And that will make this whole period a little more palatable, a little easier to deal with. I want to go on to what Kululam did during the pandemic. Now, many of us know Kululam because we've shared a lot of their music over the years. Kululam is this Israeli mass singing social experiment where if you bring a few thousand people into a room together and hand them out song sheets and practice with them for about an hour, well, can they come together and sing a beautiful song in multi-part harmony? And the answer is always yes. And they have become a big hit in Israel, and then they were asked to bring their act outside of Israel and did it in Brazil and in Canada and in the US. And there was supposed to be a big gathering of theirs in New York right around last year, Yom HaAtzma'ut, but of course the pandemic forced it to not happen. It was supposed to be, I think, at the 92nd Street Y or the JCC. Yeah.
APAC. We had it at APAC.
Right. They did their thing at APAC. That's right. So what they said is, okay, we can't do our normal thing, but if anybody wants, you can submit a video. We're going to sing this song Fix You by Coldplay, an American song. And we're going to have you film a video of yourself singing this song in whatever part harmony we give you. They say, if you're a man, you should do this. If you're a woman, you should do this. If you have a high voice, a low voice. And they received 5,000 submissions. They didn't use nearly all of them because there are only a few hundred in this video. But actually, I submitted a video. I thought it would be fun, but they didn't use mine, and they didn't use anybody that I spoke to. Didn't get theirs in, but whatever. And I'll just show you a quick snippet of what this looked like. This was in April, a song called Fix You. So that's what they did back in April and got a ton of attention because nobody had really done anything like that before. 5,000 submissions from around the world. But then USY, the youth movement of the conservative movement, decided to employ the services of Kululam for their annual convention in December. And they did the same thing. Anyone who was active in USY was invited to submit a video, and they were going to stitch them together and make some beautiful music together. So I want to show you this. This is USY kids from around the country joining together to sing Al Kolela. That's a big, important, well-known song in the conservative movement and a well-known song at the USY convention, and they decided to sing it together. So here you go. I think it's so beautiful to see these American teenagers so invested in Judaism, so invested in Israel, and just loving being part of this Am Yisrael, the nation of Israel. I thought that was really something special, and I love that USY made this happen and put it together. So that's how Kululam does their thing during the pandemic. Hopefully they will be back sometime soon so that we can all gather together and sing our hearts out and make some incredible videos.
It's terrific.
Yeah, a lot of fun. So then we got to Yom HaAtzma'ut of 2020. All right, it was last year. Israelis were like, well, how do you want us to do this? Yom HaAtzma'ut is this grand celebration. How in the world are we going to have a Yom HaAtzma'ut where we're locked inside our homes? And, what are we going to do? So what made Yom HaAtzma'ut 2020 in Israel just incredible is that Israelis found a way to celebrate. through special television shows, through trucks that were driving around the streets of Israel, blaring music, and people would stand out on their patios and wave flags, as we saw earlier. And this was something that appeared on Israeli TV that I thought was just beautiful. Again, don't let the subtitles distract you too much from the scenery, because the images of Israel that are in this are just beautiful. But this is a man singing named Yehoram Gaon, who has been doing his thing in Israel for many years. He's like 82 by now. But he's about to sing a song called Shalom Lach Eretz Nehederet. And the tune may sound a little familiar from something you know from here in America.
חג שמח, עם ישראל, יום עצמאות שמח. שמח, עם ישראל, חג שמח.
I just love that video. You see such beautiful images of Eretz Yisrael and some really happy people, despite the fact that they had to celebrate the biggest day of the year in Israel from their mirpeset, from their balconies all over. You know, there are a lot more people living in apartments in Israel than private homes, and there were a lot of people celebrating. And just like in New York, they would encourage people to come out and applaud the healthcare workers every night at 7 p.m. Well, they did that kind of stuff in Israel too, that they on Pesach at I think 8 p.m. they told everybody to come out on their terrace and sing Manishtana at the same time, the 4 questions. And on Yom HaZikaron or Yom HaAtzma'ut, I don't remember which one it is, they encouraged everybody to come out and sing Hatikva together. And they unified the country in a beautiful way throughout the pandemic. And I think music was a big part of that. Okay. Any questions that anybody has before we go on?
Out.
All right. I hope you're having fun. And enjoying the music we're playing today, because I think it all is really beautiful and really special. This one as well. And again, this was another song that just struck me because of the imagery in the video. Yom Yerushalayim, Jerusalem Day, comes about every year, a few weeks after Yom HaAtzma'ut, celebrating Israel's miraculous victory in the Six-Day War, the day that celebrates the liberation and reunification of the city of Jerusalem. A very important day on the calendar, and truly a day to, like this one of Yom HaAtzma'ut, to celebrate the miracles that took place in the establishment of the state of Israel. So there's a singer named Shlomi Shabbat, and he decided to put together a beautiful video for Yom Yerushalayim, Jerusalem Day, with some amazing, stunning imagery of Jerusalem, simply entitled Yerushalayim, Jerusalem. In addition to the imagery and the beautiful pictures of Jerusalem, what I also love about this song is the fact that in America, do you have American singers singing love letters to their country? It doesn't happen that maybe in the country music world, I don't know, but I feel in pop music, it just doesn't happen very often. And I love that, maybe it's the fact that the country is so young, but singers of all walks of life really take the time to express their love for the country and for the parts of the country that really comes through, and that you just see such a love of the nation and a love of the land that comes through so often in its music. Okay, this is one of my favorite songs of the year, not so much because of the song, but because of the music video. Anyone who has been to Israel has spent some time in Ben Gurion Airport. But during the coronavirus pandemic, people really weren't traveling. And Ben Gurion Airport was pretty much deserted. So this guy named Ivri Leader decided to take advantage of a deserted Ben Gurion Airport and recorded a music video for his song Hamizrach HaTichon, the Middle East. It's a very strange video, but you've never seen Ben Gurion Airport quite like this. And for those of us who have been there, the sights of our that airport, which always makes us so happy when we touch down at Ben Gurion Airport, and here we are ready to explore Israel. It's pretty amazing to see this this airport totally deserted. So take a look. And again, very odd. I always wonder who comes up with these these crazy videos, but I thought that was a lot of fun. That song got more airplay on Israeli radio than almost any other this past year. Was like, I don't know, the 5th most played song on the radio all year long, and that I thought that was a lot of fun, and so cool to see Ben Gurion Airport deserted like that. Sad because of why it was like that, but very interesting to see. Why she was a conehead, I have no idea. That makes no sense to me, but fun video nonetheless. All right, the next song came about right before Rosh Hashanah. It was sung by Shiri Maimon, who is one of my favorites. She not only do I have a crush on her, but don't tell my wife. She's also a very, very talented vocalist in Israel. And she actually was on Broadway for 2 weeks with the role of Roxy Hart in Chicago back in 2018. I saw her, and it was really pretty amazing to have. This is the picture you're looking at was at the press conference where they introduced her to the press as the new face of Roxy Hart in Chicago on Broadway. And it was pretty amazing that an Israeli was able to get that role, only for a couple of weeks. But then she brought the Broadway production to Israel, and it was a smash success there. Anyway, she is singing the very famous song, Bashana Haba'a Neshev Al HaMirpeset. So what is that song about? It's about hopes for next year. What's going to happen next year? Think about how good it's going to be next year. Well, here we were. The entire Jewish nation was getting ready for Rosh Hashanah, the new Jewish year. And the year that had passed was not an easy one. The year that we were ending was very difficult. So all we could do was hope for a brand new year filled with health and happiness and an emergence from this crazy pandemic that we've been faced with over the year. And it turned out that our prayers were answered, because here we are, slowly emerging from quarantine and from loneliness, and a very slow, gradual process back to real life. Anyway, so Shiri Maimon took this very famous song of Bashana Haba'a, and the arrangement of this song makes you really think of the words in a whole new way. A song that many of us have known our whole life suddenly took on new meaning when we were approaching Rosh Hashanah and in the middle of a pandemic. Something as simple as sitting around on the porch without a care in the world, watching the kids play tag. Those are things we took for granted. And those are things that we kind of had to stay away from during the pandemic. And imagining a new year filled with an end to all of this was something really, really beautiful as a bracha, as a blessing, and as a prayer for Rosh Hashanah. And I think Shiri did a great job of expressing that with an old song in a whole new way. All right, we've seen this song a number of times within the synagogue, so I'm not going to show the whole thing, but this is just a beautiful way that the stars of Israeli music came together. Young and old, religious and secular, all walks of life. They all came together. I think there were 35 singers involved in this project, saying, we as a nation, we've overcome everything. Yom HaAtzma'ut, that's the message of this day. We've overcome everything to get where we are. We can overcome this too. We can overcome Corona. We've got this. we can handle this. And just a beautiful way that the stars came together to sing this song. And indeed, just a couple months later, the vaccine was released in Israel sooner than anywhere else. And they've pretty much overcome it. I mean, at this point, coronavirus is barely a thing in Israel. Yeah, they're still wearing masks in public gatherings just to be safe, but they're gathering. And they've seemed to have decided more or less that Corona is behind us. So I'll just show a minute or so of this great song featuring a whole bunch of very famous Israeli superstars singing Katan Aleinu. Oops. Again, another very patriotic song where the singers are really reminding us of all we've gone through, how hard we've worked to make Eretz Yisrael a reality, and how we can handle this. It's no big deal for us. So I have one more song to show you before we go, and it happens to be the song that got more airplay on Israeli radio this past year than any other song. But before I finish with that, I want to know if anybody has any questions or comments on any of the music we've heard so far. Feel free to just unmute yourself and ask away.
Josh, I sent you a comment in the chat.
Okay. I didn't see it, but
you said that America doesn't have any songs, but they do. They have America the Beautiful and My Country 'Tis of Thee. So we have songs in this country too that are love for the country.
You're right. But those are old songs. You
No,
know?
there's new ones. There's new ones. Greenwood. Yeah. What about the Greenwood? There's a lot of in the country and in the red states. There are songs that are pro-America. There are. I'm sorry. I'll have to get them for you. But
all right.
Mostly people here don't know them. Greenwood. Yeah. Look up Greenwood.
All right.
You mean Lee Greenwood, the male singer?
Yeah.
So finally, I want to share this song. And if anybody has any questions afterwards, feel free to ask. I want to share this song. And this actually didn't come out during the pandemic. It came out right before. Okay, we're talking February 26th. Nobody had ever heard, well, I mean, we were starting to hear of coronavirus, but nobody really knew what it was all about. For sure, nobody had ever heard of social distancing. And it was a time that it was perfectly acceptable to get together in a crowded elevator and make a music video. But when I say a crowded elevator, well, you've never seen anything like this. This is that guy that we started off with. He wears a kippah. His name is Hanan Ben Ari. And this song is just so joyous and so much fun. And again, you know, you can look at the subtitles, but you don't even need to because it's so much fun to just watch what's going on in the video. And I think because of all that, this song got more airplay on Israeli radio than any other. This is called Im Tirtzi, If You Want. You know, we watch that song now and we say, what are you doing? You can't stand that close together. How is that okay? That's not okay. But back in February of 2020, that was perfectly acceptable and just a joy to watch and really a ton of fun. That's all I have. I hope that all of you felt a little more connected to Israel than you did before through its music and through its culture. And really don't be put off by the language barrier to say, it's not, I don't speak the language. I don't. Find a few artists that you like. Find an artist or two that you really could listen to in any language. You know, you sometimes hear people say, oh, I love that person's voice. I'd listen to them read the phone book. I don't care. Find people like that in Israel and connect to Israeli society, to the Israeli people, and to Israeli culture through the music. And I think it's a great way to celebrate Yom HaAtzma'ut and to celebrate the miracle of the state of Israel. That's all I have. Thank you so much.
It was a delight. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.